On January 26th of this year, Sydney Sweeney did something that would make us brand designers or brand strategists either cringe or applaud, and that is hiking up to the Hollywood sign at midnight illegally and hanging lingerie from the sign. Well, although it was a little crazy, her brand sold out in minutes, and in this video I want to break down with you guys not only her branding, but her website design, her marketing, and everything that is behind her new brand, Siren, which we're going to talk about that brand name as well. But if you enjoy videos like this, I have a whole series called Behind the Brand where I break down the brands we all know and love, because I'm always so fascinated about the brand story and what makes up the brand and if it's successful and why it is. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Let's first talk about the brand positioning. Now, it is no surprise to us that Sydney Sweeney is definitely not afraid of controversy. I also think that she kind of positions herself as the male gaze type of actress and also model in the way she shows up in ads. So when her lingerie line came about, it wasn't really a surprise to me that this was a path she was going to go down, because I really feel like it already fits her positioning and her persona. But what's difficult about the lingerie industry is that there is so much competition. It's already very saturated. We have Victoria's Secret. We also have Rihanna's line of Savage X Fenty. We also have Kim Kardashian's line Skims, and it's really interesting to see how celebrities are able to enter into those industries without fear of too much competition and positioning themselves uniquely to match the persona behind the brand. So how does Siren differentiate? So like I said, it didn't really surprise me that Sydney wanted to create a line like this because it already fits her persona, but I was really surprised when I looked at her branding because it wasn't how I initially thought about it. But when I was watching interviews of Sydney talking about her line, she basically mentioned that she wanted to start this brand because of a genuine pain point that she has gone through in her life. She mentioned to Elle that she was wearing a double D cup in the 6th grade and hated the bra that she had to wear. So from a brand designer standpoint, that's not just marketing copy, that's her using storytelling to really sell the brand. But it's not only using storytelling, it's also touching on other women's pain points that they likely can relate to. Now, the interesting thing about her brand Siren is that she actually launched it as 4 different personas. Now, I'm going to give you guys my honest opinions on all of this and my honest thoughts, that when I initially entered into her website, I was a little bit confused because she's trying to speak to other women and other people who might be having those same pain points, but the 4 different personas that she is targeting is Seductress, which is like her debut collection, Romantic, which just launched, and I believe she launched this because of Valentine's Day, and then also Playful, which is loungewear meeting lingerie, and then we also have the Comfy line, which is like the everyday line. So if I'm being honest, I feel like she needs to pick a direction. I think that there's 4 different audiences, and this can be either a brilliant thing or it can be really confusing to the target audience that you're trying to attract. So I think it would have been really smart as a brand strategist to come in and really just hone in and choose one audience. Either you're going to be like the male gaze, you're going to go for the sexy line and that's what you're going to want to attract, or you're going to go for the comfy line that kind of fits with her tomboy like hobbies that she has on the side. And I think as a strategist, it would have been really smart to kind of pick a lane, because I think that the chaoticness of the brand and all the personas she's trying to attract really comes through on the website, which we will get to. But these different personas, like I said, it could have been brilliant because she could have even used models that encompass that persona to really relate and speak to the audience. But instead, she is the model behind each of these personas, so it's really just not meeting the mark. It's not aligning and it's not connecting as a brand designer looking at this from an unbiased point of view. So for Sydney's brand Siren, most of her products are under $100. I believe that this pricing strategy also feels a little bit confusing because it is going to feel more luxury when it's priced at a higher point like that, but it still could be accessible for a younger fan base. But I think, like I said, she needed to pick a lane. If she was gonna go for that like sexy, seductive line, then she probably could have priced her lingerie maybe a little pricier so it feels luxury, or if she's gonna go for that comfy target audience, then I would say a younger fan base or a fan base that just wants comfort and accessibility with her products, then that probably would have been a better match. But as I'm going through her brand, I actually want to compare her pricing with Skims and also the Fenty pricing to see how she was trying to position herself a little bit differently. Okay, so I have all websites open. I have Savage x Fenty, and I also have Skims open. So I'm looking through the Savage website, and overall it feels really clean. I know we're not breaking down this brand, but I think it's really important to compare how Sydney is trying to position herself differently. So if I were to click up here, then let's just check out her bras. We'll just go to shop all. So yeah, this definitely feels way more affordable. Definitely probably a younger fan base. This actually feels more to me like a more direct competition with Victoria's Secret, just the way it feels like she has tons of options and they're not priced very high at all. Now, if I go to Skims, which I think Skims does such a great job of making their products kind of have like drops to them, and I know that Sydney is trying to do this as well, but I just think that the marketing behind Skims not only fits Kim's personality so well, I mean, we've seen her interior design and it's so neutral, so clean, and I think Skims does a great job of really encompassing that. So even though Kim's not the face of every single bra or underwear that she's launching, you can still feel that it was created by her, or at least imagined by her. So I would say that Skims pricing also is not super luxury. I think that her branding really speaks to that more comfy target audience. So I think that you can really tell the direct audience that Skims is trying to attract. So let's go over to the Siren website. And just on initial thoughts when I entered into the website is it's a lot going on. I know that I tend to lean more towards minimal designs, really clean, simplistic art in websites, but this I think is trying to be too many things. Like it feels like it's trying to be simple, but it really speaks chaotic. And I just want to show you as I scroll here that we have this line that feels like probably the more, seductress line. And then if I scroll down, we have first off so many patterns, so many fonts going on. And I think that maybe they were trying to speak to that younger fan base because this gives me really like youthful vibes, but at that price point, it's just not aligning. And then right down here, we have all of the different audiences. So I don't know, I feel that, and we'll break down the website in another segment of this video, but I just feel there's a lot going on. So let's go check out the pricing here. I go to shop now, even just that doesn't feel intuitive to click into the shop. But if I click into here, a lot of this is, the pricing's kind of all over the place. We have like 89 here, 90, around the 90, 100. But then we also have things priced around $20. So it looks like the bras are usually around that like $80 to $100. Underwear is usually like 20 to maybe 50. So the pricing still feels a little bit, I don't know, a little off based on the branding and the audience that she wants to attract. So I find that so interesting. Now I will say that with Sydney's goal of really relating to other women that might be having a hard time finding a bra that not only fits them, but that is comfortable and nice looking, that I think she does a good job of size inclusivity. On her website, she has 44 sizes. So I will give her a gold star here. I think she did a great job of really speaking to that inclusive sizing. And to her point that boobs and bodies are like fingerprints. Not everyone's the same, and there should be sizing that works for every woman. Okay, so let's talk about the marketing strategy, because I think this is super key for a saturated market. And yeah, we already kind of addressed the elephant in the room at the beginning of the video, which is her marketing strategy of hiking up to the Hollywood sign, hanging the lingerie from it to really kind of spark some controversy. I mean, at the end of the day, even though that was an illegal stunt from Sydney, she actually did reach 8 million views on her video, and the search traffic for Sydney Sweeney increased by 1,200%. So at the end of the day, it worked. And as illegal as it was, and even though there is still some investigation going on around it, at the end of the day, it worked, and it caused some conversation and it caused some controversy. I don't really think she needed to go to that extent because I feel like she's already known for her like beautiful body. She didn't really need to go and do a whole illegal stunt there, but at the end of the day, I guess it really did pay off and work for her. But I also feel like I just have to go back to the main goal of the brand was to relate to women and to speak to women who might be going through the issues of not being able to find a bra that fits or is comfortable or looks good. And I really feel like this marketing stunt is kind of leaning more towards like rebellious punk rock and not really speaking to that audience of like just comfortability. So I really am kind of confused on the brand positioning, the marketing, and these different kind of like stunts that they performed. But I'm a big believer in strategizing the timing of marketing. So in my own business, I like to tease things and then launch it. And I like to share behind the scenes. So I think the whole goal behind the Hollywood sign stunt was to really spark some conversation, increase the search visibility before actually launching. So I will say, I think having that timing to reach the launch was a smart move, but I think they could have probably done some other things that weren't illegal. But Siren did not rely on just one marketing moment, even though that was like the biggest talked about. There are some other things that I'm seeing her doing and the brand doing in general. So Sydney is the model behind this brand, which makes sense. I'm pretty sure Kim, when she launched Skims, was the model as well. She was the face behind it, and same with Fenty. So I really think that is important because showing your face, connecting with the audience is the best way to grow the brand. But I'm just gonna say it again, I think that her being the model behind every single audience or every single drop that she is trying to reach does create some confusion. And it will be really interesting to see if over the next few months or even the next year, if she starts to maybe have influencers or celebrities similar to how Skims is doing, kind of be the face behind the brand, or even just real life women. But I also noticed that Sydney is doing what we can call like peekaboo marketing. She wore her Siren boxers peeking out from her jeans in public, and that was definitely to create some chat about it and also to influence others with her style. I think that this is a smart move. I actually really like this. I would love to see more of this because it feels natural, it doesn't feel forced, and it's nice to see the actual celebrity using the brand. But besides that, her other marketing strategy is the limited drop strategy. So similar to Skims, Siren is going to be launching different like collections occasionally. So it's going to be kind of creating that like FOMO or urgency that you need to get in on this drop. And I do think that is actually a smart strategy as well, because it's going to create that kind of culture and the wait lists behind the brand. But if I were the brand strategist for Siren, I would really lean into real life women. I just think that is the best thing to do, especially with her story and just being able to relate to the women who naturally just go through these same issues. So I think the smart thing to do would be to create some marketing campaigns that really showcase real life women. I think people are craving that more than ever these days with AI at the forefront, and just we saw it in the Super Bowl. There's so many ads that are just AI generated, and I think it's going to be really sought after to see the real world stuff and to really relate to the people that you are trying to target. Now, another interesting thing about Sydney's brand Siren is that she is backed by venture capital. So the interesting thing is that Sydney received $1 million from Jeff Bezos and Michael Dell. So this is interesting because this is like a heavily funded brand, and I think that they really have big ideas and goals to grow this brand and compete with Victoria's Secret. But I really do feel like they need to look at their brand strategy some more, perfect that, even work on the website some more before they grow to extreme levels. But being backed by venture capital and taking that angle really means that they have a ton of opportunity to grow and scale quickly, and they obviously have the resources for premium production. But to be honest, I'm not really seeing that actually being used in the branding that I have come across. Okay, so I'm gonna open my computer and I'd love to actually just walk through the branding and the typography, the fonts, the colors, and in this segment we're gonna be talking about the overall brand design, because that really is the important part. We have the strategy, we have the marketing, but the design needs to match up with that. Okay, so So when I enter into her website, I kind of mentioned this previously, but it feels chaotic. There's a lot going on, and I'm not quite sure what type of brand style they're truly going for. I see that her Siren logo up top here, which I think the brand name also doesn't feel super intuitive. When I first saw it, I thought it was SYRN, and I really had no idea it was Siren until I heard her talking about it. So I think that could have possibly be reworked a little. I'm sure there was some trademark things with the actual brand name, so that's probably why they landed on it. I love the idea of the name, but I think it just doesn't visually intuitively read like that. So I think that the logo could have even been reworked to maybe have the reader like read it like that, or have the viewer read it like that. So that is my initial thought on the actual logo and the name. But for the photography, I also just feel like the collage style vibe that they're going for is a lot. As a viewer, I just feel confused. I see a lot of different colors, I see a lot of different fonts, and I can't even tell if this is like Sydney modeling. So I just feel like this could definitely be cleaned up a little bit, either going completely black and white and doing more of like male gaze photography, or having like super relatable photography that is just her in her natural environment. But I do love the idea of like layering textures. Like we have the lace here, we have brand elements here, but this just feels like it was really rushed and put together even on like Canva. So I think that this could have been perfected a little bit more and still give that collage effect, but cleaner. So that would be something I would have recommended if I was her brand designer. I also am noticing that there is this brand mark that has the 2 S's, which I don't really know. I like how it has a little diamond in the middle there, but there's not 2 S's in the brand name. So for me, that doesn't feel super intuitive either. And I think that if they're gonna go for like that Siren, which I know that there's so much symbolism behind that, they could have even really showcased that through the branding. But if I go back to the homepage here, I also get a little bit confused on the colors, because on that page I was just on, there's a lot of like burgundies and deep reds, which definitely speaks to the more romantic feel. But on this main website here, we have black and white, but also neon colors. So it just feels a little bit confusing. Like I feel like they're trying to do way too many things to speak to each of those audiences. The photography is definitely like that bright flash photography, and it still gives me that like kind of punk rock vibe. And I think that would have been a really cool direction to go down, but it just doesn't match up with the actual product photography or the other collections that they are trying to launch. And I think that was their goal, was for each collection to have its own vibe, but that just feels like these don't belong to the same brand. If you're gonna have a parent brand, all the collections underneath that should align in some way. And this is when a brand strategist can come in and help make that happen. I think that the fonts as well on the website are a very interesting choice, because I'm seeing like 4 different fonts. We have this text font here. I feel like if she's gonna go for that type of language, that she should lean more towards that like male gaze seductive type of brand, which is totally okay, nothing wrong with that. But if she's trying to speak to women, I don't know if that type of language really does resonate. So I find that interesting. But in terms of the fonts, we have like this font here, but we also have this big bold font. We also have an italic font. That is like 4 fonts already. And I just think that as a brand designer, we need to simplify this and have even just 3 fonts at most. And I think a good example of this again is Skims. They really have their logo design, and they have that recognizable font that is just so easy to read, and you can tell like there's only 3 fonts. It's just like less overwhelming as a consumer of the products. So I think that simplifying and cleaning up the fonts alone would help so much to make the brand feel more cohesive. Now I know I already kind of touched on the web design and the layout of this, but to me there's a lot of cleanup that could be happening. When I enter into the website, I think it's so important to, yes, maybe have like the top collection at the very forefront, and then of course having call to actions throughout each section of the website. But when I read this, back for more, the seductress returns, I am confused. I don't know what this line is about. I don't know what this collection is about. And maybe this could have been displayed more through the photography. But if I click into here, it takes us to the seductress collection. But it just doesn't feel like super intuitive, especially because this is black and white, and I click in here and now we're in a lot of burgundies and colors and red. There's no alignment there, and I think that could definitely be cleaned up. And then we have the get the look, so you can click on these images to shop what she's wearing, but these photos, yes, they're cool, but it's not really easy for me to tell what I would be shopping for. Like, I don't know if like I'm shopping for these fur boots or if I'm shopping for this robe. So I think that also can be cleared up, because you have to view your websites as if anyone is viewing it. And maybe someone doesn't even know who Sydney is. So if they enter into the website, can they navigate it and understand what they're looking for? And I just don't think they can right now. And then we have the main collection up here, which seems to be the one that she's trying to sell the most. And this could be because of the time of year we are in, which is Valentine's. So that could be why, but it is every single section of the homepage. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel intuitive. So as a web designer, I would want to come in, clean this up, speak to each type of audience throughout the homepage, and also just make it clear what each section is going to be taking them to. Okay, so we talked about the branding, we talked about the positioning, we talked about the marketing, the website design, even the brand voice. And I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from her branding. There's some good things, but there's also some things that I would definitely love to see differently. And I think the biggest takeaway from this is that there needs to be alignment with your positioning, your voice, photography, and branding, and all the things that make up the brand. There has to be alignment across all of that. If Sydney were to lean into that seductive male gaze type of brand, it would make sense, because I think that's where she's really leaning towards and what she's really marketing herself as. And I think they should have gone all in on that instead of trying to have a brand voice in the public that is saying that she relates to women who might be having trouble, or, you know, just trying to hit those pain points. I just don't feel like that's aligning with the two audiences and the way that she's showing up in her brand voice and marketing. So as a strategist, I think there would have to be a lot of rework with how she wants to show up, how she wants her marketing to look, how she wants her photography to look. And I think that aligning that all would just feel way more cohesive and way less chaotic as a consumer. I also really feel like I am confused on the identity of the brand. Like when I think of Siren or I think of Sydney's brand, it's hard for me to visualize the logo with that. So I think there could have been a lot more thought and meaning behind the logo. And I do think it works. I think it's clean, it's minimal and simple. I love simplicity, but I just think that it could have like a logo mark that speaks to Siren, or just maybe make a little bit more sense, because if I just saw that logo and the logo mark, I would have no idea what this brand is about. So I genuinely think that could have been cleaned up and reworked a little bit more. So I think this is such an interesting brand to break down, because she's entering into a saturated market, and she's entering into that market with a very unique positioning. She's trying to target many audiences with one umbrella brand, and she is the face of this right now. So I'm really curious to see if over time that evolves and changes. But the fact that she is backed by billionaires and has so much funding in the brand, I think we're gonna see a lot of changes and involvement over time. Now that I'm breaking down her brand, I would love to create a video of me creating her brand strategy and identity and logo if I were her brand designer. So if you guys want to see a video like that, let me know and I'll show you how I would create her branding, because I think that would be so much fun to do. And even just looking at her branding and really like analyzing it, I have so many great ideas for her, and I'm sure all of you do as well. So as brand designers, I think we can learn so much from this, because there's so many things that are important with your brand positioning, strategy, voice, and I think there's a lot of work that should be done with her brand to make that just feel way more cohesive. But let me know what you guys think about her branding and website down below. I would love to hear your comments, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you all in my next one.